Well, to get an idea of how the speech was received by Republicans, I'm joined by Mica Mosbacher, an advisor to Donald Trump's 2020 campaign, and Rick Tyler, conservative political strategist whose book Still Right argues the Trump administration has done the very opposite of conservatism. Welcome to both of you. Thank you very much for being with us. Rick, let me start with you. The Republican National Convention, it's all wrapped up. How did it go in your eyes?
Well, the president gave last night what I thought was a monotonous, monosyllabic speech that would paint a dystopia that's occurring under his administration, not the Biden administration. You would think that Trump is the insurgent, that he's actually running against someone else who's in power, and have us forget that he's been in power for the last 4 years, and that currently the United States is net negative, almost 7 million jobs in the hole. We've suffered one of the worst economic setbacks in American history. And he laid out absolutely zero plan to put the economy back on track. And more importantly, anybody who stands in front of 1,500 maskless people and talks about the success of combating the coronavirus is not serious. And Donald Trump, it was so off message in terms of what the reality that people are speaking about in their own lives, because he is been leaderless, and so he went extremely negative. Now, if you're losing, you go negative. If you're losing by wide margins, you go extremely negative, and that's what Donald Trump and Republicans have done over the last 4 days.
Oh, you're clearly not convinced by his performance. Mica Mosbacher, for you, was it something that you applauded, or did you cringe listening to him last night?
Well, Rick must have seen an entirely different speech, because I thought that this speech was pitch perfect. Trump struck the right tone between fiery Trumpism and also optimism. Many of the speech reminded me of his February State of the Union speech, with familiar themes of what he had accomplished, which is staggering, how we are no longer relying on bad trade deals that kill American jobs. He talked about the economy that he had built pre-pandemic, and most importantly, he assured Americans that he did it before, he'll be able to do it again. But I want to take a step back. If I may, could I take a moment to frame this speech in different terms? This doesn't come down to Trump and Biden. It comes down to two different warring ideologies in this country. One is America as we know it, with traditional GOP values, standing for the national anthem, etc. The other is the America under Biden, and what that would look like.
We'll get on to talk about that in a moment, Mica. But if I may, I might just address that question that Rick raised, which is the apparent lack of, well, it wasn't apparent because we could see it. There was no social distancing in place there with the audience members that had gathered to see him speak. And yet, on the one hand, he's saying that he's dealt with the coronavirus pandemic in America successfully, yet there have been more than 100,000 deaths. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, I looked at the audience and the enthusiasm in the crowd, and I felt proud. I understand that the RNC did take measures to have safety checks, such as temperature checks, and that there were a few physicians on staff. But more importantly, it is the enthusiasm that I saw in the crowd, and I think there's an enthusiasm gap between the Biden campaign and the Trump campaign. I see that in fundraising. RNC raised a record $165 million in July. We have an army of 1.9 volunteers.
Well, if I can, Mica, I'd like to bring Rick in now, because, you're talking, Mica, there about the divisions between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, but there clearly seems to be, between the both of you, divisions between the Republican Party. So, Rick, what do you need to be convinced by in terms of what Donald Trump could do in the next few weeks ahead of the election?
I don't think he's much he can do, but look, Mica and I would probably agree on a lot of things in terms of conservative values, but she has decided to follow Donald Trump's grim fairy tales about the coronavirus. The fact is, we have twice the infection rate of Europe combined. We have 4 times the death rate of Europe combined. We have 20 times the death rate of Asia combined. And by any measure, this president has failed to address the coronavirus, which, by the way, has led to deficit spending that used to be a conservative value of balanced budgets and prosperity of $7 billion. So he attached Joe Biden of raising taxes $4 trillion, but he has overspent $7 trillion with no idea how to pay for it.
Well, Rick, if I may, forgive me for interrupting, but your attack is clearly centred on Donald Trump. But where does that leave the Republican Party now? You say about the conservative values that you and Mica adhere to, but you sound very pessimistic about what lies ahead.
Well, because Donald Trump, he's gotten people to believe that he's somehow a conservative when his beliefs are antithetical to conservatism. Deficit spending, trade deals that have gone nowhere. And by the way, jobs have not come back to the upper Midwest, particularly the 3 states that are in contention, the swing states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. The net job gains there are 0. And the trajectory of the economy since 2008 has been virtually the same. Donald Trump provided absolutely no lift to the economy, and now our economy is underwater simply because of the mismanagement of the coronavirus. Now, much of the world has returned more to normal because they managed the coronavirus. Many European countries have returned more to normal. Asia has returned more to normal, but the United States has not returned more to normal, yet Donald Trump last night presented a picture with no social distancing, which his own CDC says 6 feet.
Yeah, and we have, Rick, if I may, we've touched on that point. And I really want to, before we run out of time here, give an opportunity to both of you to speak to a key point that I wanted to raise, and that is regarding race relations in the United States of America. One thing that was absent yesterday when we heard Donald Trump speak was that he did not mention Jacob Blake's name at all, or the backdrop of which he was making this conversation to his second-term bid, of course. The backdrop I'm talking about of what has happened in the last few days in Wisconsin. So, Mica, why do you think that was so absent, other than blaming Joe Biden for the problems in America, yet he was unable to address it himself?
He had addressed it earlier in the day and absolutely had condemned the overzealousness of police in both the Blake shooting and then earlier the Floyd shooting as well. Additionally, though, I wanted to make the point about the economy. You can't argue with the fact that we have record unemployment among Asian Americans, blacks, as well as women. We're at a 60-year low. As far as the pandemic, I blame the WHO. They certainly covered up for China. They knew that this virus existed 2 months before the United States intelligence.
Well, I was hoping that we would have a conversation about the issue that I addressed, which was the race relations in America today. I mean, given what is happening, Rick, just a final word to you on that and how you... Well, I think that listening to it, many of our viewers would think that Donald Trump didn't own what has happened in America in the last few months.
Not only did he not own it, he put a rich white couple in front of the camera at the Republican National Convention who pointed weapons recklessly at peaceful black protesters and had that couple tell America that blacks were coming in to destroy your neighborhood. That was loud and clear. That was the message that Donald Trump wanted to send to white America, that blacks were somehow going to be a threat to your way of life. And I don't understand. And there's no lift. Blacks will vote once again against Donald Trump 9-1. He has done nothing to expand the base for minorities, and this is the last gasp of the Republican Party. Because
well, this is the last gasp, unfortunately, of this interview as well, Rick. I'm so sorry to cut you off there. And to you as well, Mica, because I could see you shaking your head not in agreement. But it's clear that if we take you as representative of what is happening in America, then the Republican Party is very split, which leads to yet a fascinating election to come. But to both of you, thank you very much for being with us here on BBC World News.
Thank you.